The idea of getting a film funded can feel like pulling teeth. As filmmakers, even though we know and accept that our future is very complicated, we kind of want it to be simple. We sort of fantasize about the idea of just continuing to make our short films for free, and then once a studio notices our talents, we'll have all the money in the world to make the perfect movie that we've always wanted to make. If you know anything about how the movie business operates today, you would know that they don't really seek talent the way that they used to. They really just desire profit. If you expect a studio to give you anything before you have any concrete evidence that you can make them profit, you are wrong. A great way to show a studio that you can generate profit is by building an audience beforehand. The reality is, unless you have connections to these big studios already, you have to start out as an independent filmmaker. And as independent filmmakers, we have to take the reins and secure our own funding. This is a complex landscape to navigate, just simply put. But fear not, there are strategies that can be used to help you through it. You just have to be extremely creative, just like you would be on set. That is the job of a filmmaker, is it not? All right, so the first strategy is investment. Believe it or not, there are people out there who are willing to invest a lot of money into a movie. Now, I want to be clear. This strategy is probably the least common way for first-time or amateur filmmakers to acquire funding. When it comes to acquiring investors, it all comes down to landing in the lap of the right one, and also being able to persuade them. Some people are retired and have a lot of money lying around. With enough persuasion, you could get them to contribute some capital to your project. Other wealthy people can benefit from giving a lot of money to your project because it could potentially give them a big tax break. These people sometimes owe up to like $25,000, $50,000, or like $100,000 to the federal government. They might just be willing to donate that money to your movie instead of paying it to the IRS. Ultimately, if you find a willing investor, you still have to persuade them to invest in your project. You just have to know it's not easy to persuade these investors. It requires a lot of pitching on your part because these investors all want the same thing: return on investment. Think of the investment route as a loan. You need to show them that you can make a good film and sell it so that you can get them their money back. The investment route requires asking many people you know who either have or might have money. The success rate is about 1 out of 100. If you're a first-time filmmaker, it might be lower than that. Luckily, there are other avenues. Let's talk about the next one: crowdfunding. It's a filmmaker's dream come true, having to ask people for their hard-earned money. Having a successful crowdfunding campaign takes a tremendous amount of skill and dedication. It is a ton of work. Do not underestimate that. Crowdfunding for a movie takes just as much time and energy as actually making the movie. A great way to get people on board is first to, know your audience, of course, and second, show how your film solves a real-world problem, or at least addresses it. For example, I started a crowdfunding campaign for my college thesis film, Good Boy. We used GoFundMe for the campaign and made a promotional video for it. GoFundMe is one option. There's also other sites like Seed and Spark and Indiegogo. Those are more geared towards specifically like film projects that are trying to get funded. GoFundMe is kind of just for anything. She wanted to be a part of the video. Off you go. Good Boy is a suspense thriller about an 18-year-old guy trapped in a house with his abusive mother and his ill father. The real-world problem that I addressed in Good Boy was that abuse leads to trauma, and that we need more awareness of that so that people can break free of their trauma and live their best lives. I conveyed that message to anyone who clicked on our GoFundMe page. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that message did not resonate with everybody. Some people were more invested in solving that problem than others. That's okay. I expected that. Much of the campaign involved me and my team personally messaging people and asking for a small donation. Posting the campaign on your socials is a great way to raise awareness of the campaign, but that is just the bare minimum. It's a great way to get it in people's minds, but just because it's in their mind doesn't mean they're going to donate. So here's the reality. You are not raising any money if you are not constantly in people's DMs. Direct messaging people at least increases your likelihood of getting a donation. Now, this should go without saying. Just don't be annoying about it. At the end of the day, it's just like making a sale. You're giving the person a choice. At the end of the day, they don't have to say yes. Just persuade them as best you can and leave it at that. And temper your expectations for these too, because you can't just go in there expecting hundreds of dollars. It's why people who make crowdfunding campaigns or any fundraiser will often say the words, anything helps, or just a little bit, just $5, whatever. That's why people say those things, because you can't just ask for hundreds of dollars. That's why you and your team have to message people daily. If you message 100 people and 50 of them give you $5 each, guess what? You got $250. And if 3 other people on your team also did those numbers, guess what? You've just raised $1,000 for your film. Congratulations. I've also seen some fun, incentivized strategies for crowdfunding that I want to recommend to you. Like a fundraiser. If partying is your thing, you can throw a party that's dedicated to raising funds for your film. You would say in the invitation that that is your intention, and you charge people at the door, and then when they get in, they don't have to pay for drinks, food, or whatever else there is. It's sort of like paying a cover at a bar. You'll often find that people who are into film, who really don't go to parties often, will probably turn up. Events like this are actually fun for people who don't really like parties, and it's also a great networking opportunity. It's better if you can get a venue for this instead of throwing it at your house. Obviously, that's easier said than done, but if you can get a venue, you probably have more space to invite more people, which means more money to your campaign. And also, people might be more interested to come if it's a cool venue. Obviously, house parties are still fun, but people go to house parties all the time, you know? If you can get a cool venue, that's different. That's really enticing. I've also seen people do tiny desk concerts as a way to raise funding. It's like the fundraiser. You can charge at the door or you can charge for drinks. It's just a concert instead of a party. Of course, there is also the tier system for incentivizing donations. You know what I'm talking about, the donate $500 and get the executive producer credit strategy. If your story is really appealing, people might actually jump on stuff like that. The point is, just get creative. Give people as many reasons as possible to fund your movie. Make it fun. All right, so that was crowdfunding. There's one more strategy that I can give you to raise funds for your film, and you're probably not going to like it too much, but basically it's called Bootstrapped. This basically means the film is self-funded. You pay for your budget. This could be from your day job, or maybe you got a big tax refund, or maybe a big insurance settlement, something like that. This is probably the least time-effective way to get your film funded, but some people would argue that it gives you the most autonomy. Some people just do this strategy because they don't want to go through the crowdfunding or investment hoopla because they don't like asking people for money. And I mean, there is some validity to that. You know, you don't have to ask people for money if you're the one paying for it. That's your money. You earned it. However, not everybody can just stash thousands of dollars into their savings every month, just ready to be invested into a film. You got to pay the bills. Sometimes saving up that money for your film just isn't in the cards. But with a bit of strategy and a few connections, there are some things you can do to actually lower the cost of your film. For example, equipment is a large expense. If you know anyone or work with anyone who owns equipment, they might be willing to give you some of that for a discount. You could also get them interested in your project and try to bring them on as a producer. That way, most of your equipment would probably be free for the entire shoot. This becomes much more cost effective than using a rental house or a service like ShareGrid. Now, there are some things that you're going to need that maybe your connection doesn't have. So you might have to use a service like ShareGrid to get some of those other pieces of equipment. Let's look at another large expense that goes into making a film: location. This is where you'll have to be strategic with your writing. The more locations you write, the higher your budget will be, as locations are very, very expensive. Renting a house for a film, and I'm talking like an average house, not like a mansion, can cost up to like $1,000 per day. This is another situation where your connections can save you money. If you know someone willing to let you film in their house for a discounted price or even no price, guess what? You just saved thousands of dollars. Now, in most cases, you would need to get a landlord's signature and a permit to film there. That's the legal way of doing this, and it's the best way to protect your behind. If the person you know who lives there is renting and they're not the owner, their signature, essentially their approval, is not legally acceptable. But, and I want to be clear, I'm not encouraging this, you could get away with filming with no signatures if you're there for like 1 or 2 days. If you think you can get away with it, like filming a feature that'll take like a month or however long, don't try it. It won't work. If you're filming in a public area without any signatures or any permit, just be careful. Try to avoid areas with a lot of people and be discreet about it. The last thing I'll suggest to you in terms of saving budget, in terms of saving money, is catering. If you're good at cooking, or if you know somebody who's good at cooking, you could honestly save a lot of money on catering. If you still live with or near your parents and they're willing to cook for your cast and crew, huge bonus. So we've gone over 3 strategies for funding your film: investment, crowdfunding, bootstrapped. The best thing you can do for your film is to use a clever combination of those 3. Now, I got a news flash for you. Unless you're an A-list filmmaker pulling like $50 million budgets for your films, you're going to have to think about money. And even those filmmakers kind of have to think about money, but just not as much. You have to start thinking about it the second you start writing. Whatever you do, write cheaply. Write the first draft however you want, but as soon as you start making revisions, also start thinking about how costly everything will be. Try to remove any unnecessary characters, scenes, locations, and anything else that you just don't need. When stripping the story of all the fat, you also have to strip all the financial fat. Trust me, you will thank yourself later. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, subscribe, like, comment, do all the stuff. Really appreciate it. See you soon.